Welcome back into today's second video. We've already had a look at some analogues from my good friend Stuart Markham, and we're doing the final summer forecast at gaslovers.com next Sunday. The final forecast will be with you in a week's time. But this video is going to have a look at El Nino, because things have really started to develop in the Pacific Ocean over the past few weeks. Big changes since the last video that we did. I think it was on the 26th of April. Then it did look as though El Nino was on the way, and the CFSB2 is going for a mega super Nino. I said at the time that I thought that was very unlikely. It didn't have a great deal of model support, but other models are coming around to the idea that this is going to be a big El Nino event. So we'll have a look and see what's going on in a moment. A major weather story. It looks as though it's unfolding really as we speak in the equatorial Pacific. It's going to be a big deal over the next few weeks and months, and towards the end of the year, in terms of the global weather pattern. Media will really be latching on to this. Anyway, before I get on with the El Nino update, just to say about the ads. There's links to articles on all of the pages at gaslovers.com. Have a browse through the widgets. If there's any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go off and read the article. And thanks very much for doing that. Essentially, it's paying for the website, allows me to sit here and talk to you via gaslovers.com. Thanks for getting involved. There's also video ads on those pages. They open out within the content. If you give them a watch, they're very short. Give them a watch for 20 to 30 seconds. You'll be able to pay the website. They'll close back up again when you've watched them. And thanks very much for doing that. Most of the websites, I think all of the websites that you see in this video, you can find them on the links page, and I hope you find the video interesting and informative. So this is the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map for the globe from NOAA. This was generated on the 21st of May, so it's almost bang up to date. And of course, it's the warm water through the equatorial Pacific that we're interested in. So this vibrant area of red and orange stretched out from Peru and going to Indonesia. You know it by now. I've spoken about this enough over the updates that we've done for El Nino over the past, since Gaslovers has been going, actually in 2012, we've been doing some updates about El Nino. So you know all about it. It's the warm water that rises up to the surface across the equatorial Pacific from Peru to Indonesia. When you get that warm signature, it tells you that El Nino is setting in, and El Nino is basically a southern hemisphere phenomena. Excuse me. It does impact the northern hemisphere as well, but the main impact's in the southern hemisphere, although it has effects for Canada and North America in particular, being next to the Pacific Ocean. Of course, for us over in Europe, it's more controversial. It's not a uniform effect. I think there are effects that can be felt from El Nino for the UK and for Europe, most definitely, but it's not a uniform effect, whereas the southern hemisphere in parts of America and Canada tends to be a singularity type effect. So, for example, California and that southwestern part of America tends to get wetter, whereas Canada, northwestern parts of America, in the Northwest Pacific, that area tends to get a little bit drier. Also, southern America, so the southern states in towards, Florida, those areas tend to get a bit wetter through the course of winter, but they tend to get fewer hurricanes in the summer. So these are sort of singularities that we see from El Nino, whereas in Europe we tend not to see singularity. So whilst the effects in America may have knock-on effects downstream, for us in Europe, it's not a uniform thing. Anyway, that's the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map for the globe, and that's the El Nino that's developing. If you have a look at the situation for the last video that we did, the last update, this was the chart we used on the 23rd of April, so almost a month ago, and you can quite clearly see it has been a major intensification of the warm water across the equatorial Pacific. So that was the situation then on the 23rd of April. This situation now, you can quite clearly see there has been quite quite a dramatic warming across the Equatorial Pacific over the past month. Reason that's happened is that the SOI, Southern Oscillation Index, has been crashing through May. So this is the SOI index from the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. And we start on the 1st of May, and we wasn't desperately negative at that point. These are all preliminary by the way. But I think whether they're adjusted a little bit at the end of the month, it'll still be the case that we see major negative numbers through this month. So this was the situation with the SOI on the 1st of May. Not desperate negative, just 0.50, nothing to get excited about. It's really on the 7th of May that things started to happen. Then we went down to minus 17.80, absolutely crashed. And after that, the crash really gathered speed. So through the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, we're down to minus 40 on many of those days, minus 46.90 on the 9th, exception negative with the SOI. Now, what the SOI is doing, it's an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere in the southern Pacific Ocean, from Darwin to Tahiti. And of course, the more negative the SOI goes, the more the atmosphere is reflecting, if you like, an El Nino setup. And that sort of feeds back on itself to continue to lift the warm water up. So you've got to get the atmosphere and the oceans working synergetically, really working in synergy with one another, to really hook up these very strong El Nino events. You can get weaker events with the atmosphere and the ocean sort of fighting against each other, but to get a really good El Nino, you've got to get the atmosphere via, and we see it via the SOI, got to get the atmosphere and the ocean together, coupling up to feed back on one another. The atmosphere goes more to an El Nino state. It creates even more warmer water in the Equatorial Pacific. That in turn creates even more of an El Nino state in the atmosphere. And you see that it's a snowball effect that gradually builds and builds until we finish up with a big El Nino event. It looks like this could be approaching quite a big event. So, been very negative with the SOI through May. Latest numbers when I'm doing the update on the 21st of May, the very latest one, actually not too bad, minus 6.60, but it's only a brief reprieve, I think. I expect these numbers to go very negative again over the coming few days. I mean, there we are on the 16th of May, for example, minus 30.30. 18th May, minus 24.70, and so it goes on. So we haven't been quite as negative with the SOI, over the past couple of days up to when I'm doing the video. But nevertheless, I would expect these numbers to return to very negative values over the coming few days and weeks, and May, I think, is going to be a very negative month in terms of the final SOI number average out. Now, the models are responding, the models are responding to all of this big time. So this is the CFS V2 Nino 3.4 region forecast for the rest of the year into 2016. We looked at this. Interestingly, we did look at this right at the last update back in April, right at the end of April, and we said at the time it's going for a mega event, it's going for a Super Nino, but we said at the time it was isolated. There wasn't a great deal of agreement about it. So we see that it's still going exceptionally negative. I'm not sure if this was the case when we did the last video, but I think it's going off the scale, in fact, when we did the last video. It's not now because they've sort of pushed the scale up, they've increased the scale. So now the anomaly, the temperature anomaly, going to 4.5 degrees above average. I've never seen them do that before. at NOAA. But there we go, they've increased the scale, so we no longer sort of go off the scale, although they hadn't done it, most certainly would have done. And we see that for the end of the year, the peak of the El Nino from the CFSV2 is coming out at 3 degrees, or around 3 degrees above average. That is an exceptionally record-breakingly strong El Nino that CFSV2 is predicting. Its impacts on the world would be utterly phenomenal. It would have huge ramifications for the global weather system, not just in the southern hemisphere, but I expect huge ramifications for the northern hemisphere as well. This would be the strongest El Nino ever recorded, and the records do actually go back into the 1800s. The last mega event, last Super Nino, was 1997, which I think finished up around 2.5 degrees warmer than average in terms of the temperature anomaly in the equatorial Pacific Ocean, so somewhere around there. And that was a record-breaking event. It had huge impacts on the world. This, what the CFSV2 is predicting, is stronger than that, quite significantly actually stronger than the 1997-1998 El Nino event. These are the dates just here, and you see that the peak is being predicted to occur in this sort of region just here, which takes us to the end of the year, sometime around November or December, which is about when you always expect El Nino to reach its strongest point. But just look how it rockets upwards over the through the summer. So by the time you get through to August, for instance, we've already gone, if the forecast is right, we've already gone 2 degrees above average. This is 2 degrees just here. So by August we will know, I think, if this is on the right track or if it's overdone it. We're not going to have very long to wait, just a couple of months. If we get to around 2 Celsius in August, as this is predicting, then I think we are in line for a Super Nino, because it will continue to strengthen almost certainly through into the autumn. And if we're at 2 degrees in August above average in terms of sea surface temperature anomaly, then we're in for it. So we won't have long to know if CFSV2 is calling this correctly. Interestingly, it's also going for a Medici El Nino, which is a central-based El Nino. I'll just quickly talk about that. So this is the sea surface temperature anomaly chart again. When this area in the middle of the equatorial Pacific is warmer than this area over towards Peru on the eastern side of the equatorial Pacific. If that area is cooler, at the moment it is warmer over there, but if this area is cooler than the central part, then it's a Medici or a Modoki El Nino, and that is what the CFSV2 is predicting will occur as we go into the second half of the year. Now, at the moment, the region 1.2, or off the coast of Peru, that region is warmer, so already that's sort of up to 2 degrees, 2.5 degrees perhaps above average, and that's explained by these red colours just here. So at the moment we don't have a Medici El Nino, we have a general normal sort of eastern based El Nino. This is where the 3.4, the central part of the equatorial Pacific, is somewhere around here, only around 1 degree to 1.5 above average, whereas the eastern Pacific near Peru is significantly warmer. So at the moment it's just a normal El Nino, it's not a Medici or a Modoki El Nino. But by the time you get through to the autumn, notice how it's cooling off dramatically on that eastern part of the equatorial Pacific, or in the east part of the equatorial Pacific, at the same time as the temperature is pushing up and up and up in the middle part of the equatorial Pacific. So by the time we get through to the autumn, what the CFSV2 is predicting is that this area here that's warmest now will be coolest, and this area in the middle of the Pacific Ocean will be warmer. So the CFSV2 is still seeing this signal for a Modoki or a Medici El Nino. Even though it's a very strong event, it still wants to make it a central base event. And I've got no experience of what would happen with this. A Modoki El Nino should, in theory, favour a colder than average winter for America, and possibly for Europe as well. But the complicating factor is that it's a very strong event being predicted, and the last sort of Super Nino, the last 2 Super Ninos, first one occurred in 82-83, second one occurred 97, 98. Both of those were sort of eastern-based El Nino, so they weren't Medoki, they weren't warmest in the middle part of the Pacific Ocean, they was warmest over towards Peru. And when you get those sort of eastern-based El Ninos, then there's not the feedback towards colder than average conditions for America and possibly for Europe. So this is sort of uncharted territory, really. If this did come off, sort of the Super Nino, but also a Medoki El Nino, if that did come off, then it would be pretty much uncharted. I'm not quite sure what the impacts of that would be, to be honest, but I'm sure there's lots of people looking into what the impacts of that could be. Now, there's other models we can look at. I've got the E70F here as well. This is the Region 3.4 forecast from the ECM. Going to the end of the year, the monthly scale is just here, so I've got January right at the edge of the chart. You see, again, the model is very much seeing a really strong El Nino develop through the course of this summer. Look how the red lines sort of rocket upwards through the course of the summer. This is the summer months just here. These are the summer months just there, June, July and August. So by August, again, the ECM is seeing that we're over 2 degrees above average in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies in the equatorial Pacific, so we're in this sort of zone just here. That's by August, and then you're going to expect further strengthening probably as you go through into the autumn. So the ECM is with the CFS this month. It wasn't really last month, but it is this month. The ECM is seeing this very strong El Nino event to develop. I think it's quite clear now. Obviously, these members of the ensemble up here are sort of outliers going above 3 Celsius. That's even above what the CFS is seeing. They're outliers. But I think you can see that between 2 and 3 Celsius, this sort of zone just here, that's really where the model is favouring conditions to be as we leave the summer and go on into the autumn. That is a Super Nino. It's a mega event. So both the CFS and the ECM going for this really, really strong El Nino event. Now, there is one other model we can look at, which is the JAMS Tech IOD. I had the charts up a moment ago, but something's gone wrong before I started being, I've got rid of the chart. So we'll just quickly go to the JAMS Tech website. This is the JAMS Tech IOD website, by the way. You can find a link to this website on the links page. And what we're going to look at is the El Nino Index. So here we are, and this is it from JAMS Tech. This is what it's predicting for this month. It's just updated over the last few days. So this is the May El Nino forecast. The blue line here is where we've been with El Nino or ENSO. The red line is where the model is forecasting us to go. And look at this. Very interesting again. The red line is going up to 2 Celsius or above 2 Celsius, above average in terms of the sea surface temperature normally in the equatorial Pacific. So there is the temperature scale just there. Yes, that's 2 Celsius. And look, the red line is above 2 Celsius. So the CFS, the JAMS Tech IOD, is in line with the CFS V2 and the E70F to really be ramping up this El Nino. And it's very interesting. We're doing it through the summer months. So they're all in agreement. Here's the month just here. That's July. And you see by July, we're around, or we're between 1.5 and 2 degrees above average. Go on a little bit to August. So this is August, September in this sort of zone just here. And that's when it's seeing us getting above 2 Celsius. That's very early in the El Nino to be doing that. To get to 2 Celsius above average in sort of August, September, very early for that to occur. You would expect further strengthening from there, although the JAMS Tech sort of sees it then flatlining at that very high level through to the end of the year. This is January 2016 just here. But I would have thought we're likely to see further strengthening of the sea surface temperature anomalies from September into October and then reaching a peak November or December. So really interesting what the model is seeing here. That we reach the peak very early on around August or September. It's a huge increase as well compared to last month. This is the Jamstech El Nino forecast for last month, and then you'll remember I said that the Jamstech wasn't really seeing this big El Nino event, and it wasn't. This was the forecast. The red line here just sort of flattening around, or flatlining around 1 Celsius above average in terms of the equatorial Pacific sea surface temperature anomalies. But look how it's increased it over the past month. Huge increase there, no doubt driven by what's happening with the Southern Oscillation Index and the way the atmosphere and the oceans are coupling up. So we've got to start taking this El Nino very, very seriously now, I think. Certainly we are going to have an El Nino. In fact, we are in El Nino conditions right now. The question is, how strong will this get? And, well, we've got agreement there from the three models, the CFS, the ECM, and the Jamstech. They're all going for this really big El Nino event, and very interesting that they're seeing us to be around 2 Celsius above average in terms of the ocean temperature in the equatorial Pacific as early as August. So we're not going to have to wait very long to see whether these forecasts, I mean, are very dramatic forecasts. I'm really quite shocked what's happened over the past month. I hope that's coming through in the video, but I'm very shocked about what's going on. We're not going to have to wait very long to see, actually, whether these forecasts are going completely over the top or whether they're onto it. Around 3 months and we'll know. But from where we go from August, September will be very interesting, because typically with a normal El Nino, and this is a very dramatic El Nino of course, but with a normal El Nino you expect the water temperatures to strengthen more and more through the autumn, and then they reach their peak around Christmas, which is why it's El Nino's little boy, and that ties in with the Christmas link, of course. So we're going to have to wait and see, but it's very dramatic what's happened this month, and I'm not quite sure what the impacts will be, actually, as we go through into the second half of the year. There will, if this is right, there will be very dramatic weather events occurring. I don't think we'll have to worry too much about hurricanes, famous last words, but with this sort of El Nino, I think that would knock the hurricane season on the head, but there will be other really dramatic weather events you'll be hearing a lot about El Nino over the coming few months, if these forecasts are correct, and that's the big question. As far as our winter fate is concerned, we may, if these forecasts are right, have two forces going against one another, sort of hitting each other on the head. The first one is the Modoki El Nino, which should favour blocking and colder conditions, certainly for North America, possibly, but more controversially for Europe as well. But the second element that's sort of bashing against each other will be the strength of the El Nino, because you get a very strong event, as we saw in 97, 98. That can force the pattern and give very mild conditions to the mid-latitude. So we're going to have to wait and see. It's unprecedented, it's dramatic, it's shocking, but let's wait and see where things go. I'll be updating with this, obviously, over the coming few weeks and months. It's going to be a huge weather story for the world. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching.